Welcome back to Radiant Change. I'm Kristen Lasanti, and I train transformational leaders like you. In this series, we have been talking about what it takes to shift a culture from a reactive cycle to a creative cycle in order to get the kinds of results that you are looking for. Today, we're going to look at the kind of leadership that makes that shift possible. Now, leaders sometimes want to leave themselves out of this process. As they see it, the issues lie in their teams. So that's where the work needs to start. And that makes perfect sense. Until we remember that everything a team does is shaped by what the leader does, not what the leader says. This is why so many organizational transformations are doomed to fail. Leaders put together smart plans for systems change, but they don't factor in the outsize influence that they themselves have in the system. As I said in our last episode, leaders are our highest point of leverage in their culture. The curse of leadership is that nothing changes until you do. The gift of leadership is that everything changes when you do. And here's what I want leaders to know. You don't have to change who you fundamentally are or what makes you great in your role. These adjustments can be small shifts in how you act, react, and interact with others in this present moment context. Most of the time, these shifts involve getting free of a leadership trap or two that you might not have realized that you've stepped into. And in that way, by breaking out of your own reactive patterns, you're actually becoming more fully yourself. Let's take a look at how this works. I want to share with you 3 of the reactive traps all leaders fall into from time to time, and what the alternatives are on the creative side. The first reactive trap is appeasing. Appeasing can look like people-pleasing, or it can just look like being passive, not taking action, raising issues, or speaking up with something that might rock the boat, like a potentially unpopular opinion. In the appeasing trap, we figure we'll be okay if everybody likes us, if everybody's happy with us, then we'll be good. The controlling trap can look like perfectionism, or it can look like hard-driving ambition, or like autocracy, presuming the way that we do things is best. In the controlling trap, whatever it looks like, we believe that winning is the most important thing and the way to be successful and to stay safe. The third trap is the knowing trap. The knowing trap is focused on having a full assessment of the situation and being certain and correct. Just like those leaders we were talking about earlier who say, oh, the problem's over there with my team. This trap often shows up when we're trying to distance ourselves from a problem. In the knowing trap, we think that being right is the road to success and safety. Think of a challenging situation you're in right now in your work. Which of these traps might you be stuck in? These 3 traps aren't just stressful for you and for your team, although they certainly are stressful. They also hold you back from truly transformational leadership. I define transformational leadership as, very simply, putting forth a purposeful vision for where you're going and why, and cultivating the conditions for your team to achieve that vision. So let's look at the alternatives to these reactive traps. 3 creative practices that transformational leaders intentionally practice. The first one is creating, setting that vision, mapping a strategy, building a team. These are all different forms of creating. Skillful leaders know that creating is not a solo practice. The best results come from co-creating with others. The second creative practice of transformational leaders is challenging, raising difficult topics, telling the truth when it's unpopular or uncomfortable, pushing for change when it's needed, or engaging in conflict as a generative source of solutions. All of these are forms of challenging, and all of them can be done in a respectful way that gets you closer to the results you want to see on your team. The third leadership practice on the creative side is coaching. Transformational leaders understand that a key part of their job is to develop the people around them through creating stretch opportunities, through offering feedback and appreciating progress. They not only scale their team's capacity, they nurture a high-growth coaching culture. To be clear, transformational leaders don't commit to any one of these at the expense of the others. They practice them all, and they choose the best approach or combination of these practices for the moment that they find themselves in. There's a reason we call these practices. It takes practice to shift out of our reactive traps and tendencies and into these creative modes of leadership. Most of this practice happens on the job, but not every organization is set up to support these kinds of shifts. So I created radiantleader.co, where leaders like you gather to practice deepening their presence, perspective, and purpose so they can create the space they need to see more clearly and make these new intentional choices. In our final episode of the series, we're going to bring it all together with a roadmap we use at Radiant Change to do this work. I call it the path of ease. See you there.